Hello everyone, my name is Tanvi. I'm the podcast manager for Oracle Ankini, and this year again we bring you the Learning into the Network series. The theme of June is community, and today we have Mansi from Encompassion tells us about nonviolent communication and its role in building a community. Can't wait to get it started. Hello Mansi,
Hi, Tanvi. How are you?
I'm good. Hope the same with you.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm excited to be here. Very excited.
Yeah, we really value your sharing your time and expertise with us.
Thank you. It's nice to be asked to talk about nonviolent communication. It's very precious to me and hugely a part of my life. So I'm always happy to talk about it. So thank you for calling me.
Yeah, we are glad to have you. So we'll start by asking you the same question we have asked every guest this month. What makes a group of people a community?
Sure. Thanks. I think this is a really beautiful question, first of all. It's such a precious thing to be asking, especially in a world where um, groups are becoming increasingly polarized and constricted. And somewhere there's this confusion about what community really means. So, um, for me, clarifying that and talking about that is really important. So, I'll say a few things somewhat conceptually and then summarize them. Um, for me, I guess one of the reasons this question even comes up is that we know that human beings are fundamentally a social being. Like we're told this very often. And at the same time, I guess it's important to understand where this comes from and what this really means. So to me, it means a few things. It means there are a few layers in my understanding that go into the making of a community. And the first of those layers, the absolute baseline, is about survival. Human beings on this planet as a species, to be able to survive as a physically weaker species than many of the bigger predatory species, needed to organize into communities and nurture their own food, grow their own children, and care for each other. And this is an important aspect of survival. Recently, Gabor Mate in his film The Wisdom of Trauma talked about some of the core needs of any infant. In addition to food, of course, one of the core needs is actually about is attachment. And he pointed out that when babies are not held, when they're not picked up, they actually die. So if we look back at our evolution in this planet as a species, we understand that we survived because we could organize into communities. We survived because of our relationships. And then at this, so I mean, it's a fundamental survival thing. And at the same time, one of the things we need to keep in mind is that, well, in the NVC sense, what this brings, this survival is bolstered and supported by core needs like belonging and acceptance. And at the same time, we know, I would guess we would all know as women in a male dominated society that sometimes belonging and acceptance actually comes at a cost of other needs like authenticity.
Yes.
And for me, these are like thriving needs. These are needs for uh, being able to live our truth, being able to be authentic to ourselves in a safe way. Um, Being able to express what we really want and to live our creative lives, to grow the way we want to. So it can't just be about belonging and acceptance, it also needs to be about authenticity and truth and freedom. And then there's a third element, which for me is about connection, and it's also a little bit about ownership. And this is this idea that um, any community and collective, if you're surviving and thriving, there's also an element of nurturing. So who takes decisions about how the community is nurtured? That's an important question to ask. So in earlier times, in many, even right now in our times right now, sometimes few people will determine what is good for the larger community. um, in my experience, the more there is a shared sense of ownership, um, the more that each person knows that their well-being impacts other people's well-being and vice versa. The more they know that they matter, the more that they know that they are held in a safe way, and increasingly, the more sustainable the community becomes. So that's the three layers. There's the surviving, there's the thriving, and then there's this question of ownership and like shared understanding. And while all of these ideas are fantastic, I think one thing to also be
Yeah.
is you definitely need healthy systems and structures to kind of ensure that all of these layers are attended to. So that's the essence of my
Yeah.
thoughts on that.
And also, can you share what non-violent communication is and how did it come to your life?
Sure. I mean, so nonviolent communication would be one of those ways that we can organize into healthy, thriving communities. Essentially, to me, nonviolent communication is structurally it is a process and a consciousness that was put together by Marshall Rosenberg based on a number of traditions of nonviolence. And he started with two critical questions about connection and compassion. One of those questions was about what do we do? What do some of us do that enables us to stay in touch with our more compassionate nature in difficult circumstances? And what do some of us do that disconnects us from that compassionate nature, that natural spirit of giving that each of us has? Um, and he designed a process. I mean, over years of study, he came up with this 4-step process, at the core of which is a fundamental concept of needs. That we all come from the same needs, that everything we do or do not do is an attempt to meet needs. And if we can connect at the level of needs, we can be much more in community and harmony with each other. We can live peace rather than strive for peace. And we can truly thrive as a species together. How it came to my life is actually when about 10, almost 11 years ago now, I walked into a space, a practice group in Delhi that's run by Sudha Shankar and has been running for many, many years now, where for the first time, it was an MEC practice group. And I walked in because I was at a difficult point in my life. And for the first time, somebody said to me asked me the question, what are you needing? So many people had asked me, what are you feeling up until that point? But nobody had ever asked me what I needed. And it was really empowering for me to connect with not the things that I need, not the strategies with which I wanted to live my life, but with the core needs under them, such as acceptance and love and belonging and creativity and truth. And with that, somewhere, I think that was just the first encounter, and I was sold. And over the next few years, I started practicing it in my relationships and bringing it into my own self connection practices. And at some point, there was a shift towards this idea, at least for me, that if I live this and I practice this, it needs to be in the context of community. It needs to be for me, for it to be a whole practice for me. It needs to be in service of a larger whole ahead of me. So that's basically how it came into my life.
Can you speak a little about how us being in touch with our needs enhances community bond?
Sure. I guess again, like I mentioned, the fundamental precept of NVC is that needs are universal. You and I have the same set of needs. So while you might choose to do something and I might choose to do something different, at the level of needs, we are connected. We will find resonance. Everybody wants love, everybody needs connection, everyone needs empathy and growth and learning, So first of all, needs are universal. Secondly, that everybody's needs matter. And this is it's a small sentence, uh, but it's a radical shift really, that everybody's needs matter, which means in order for us to have a thriving community, nobody's needs can be left out of the conversation. And finally, that everything we do or do not do is an attempt to meet a need. So, and from that point, from this particular precept that what we do is to meet needs, and what we do not do is also to meet needs, we can also kind of shift into understanding what happens when there is conflict. Conflict happens at the level of strategy, so not at the level of needs. So, kind of fostering an awareness and a consciousness of our shared needs, the shared humanness of our needs, naturally enhances community bonds. And when I speak to people about what I am longing for and not about what I'm thinking about them, I'm much more likely to build active bridges. So The vocabulary of universal feelings and needs really helps us to communicate what is true for us while holding the other person with care. And then that can really help with building a community. Um, I think it also kind of it maybe provides a bit of a guideline in a sense that for a community to have nurturance, like for me to have nurturance, for me to feel fully connected, I might want to move towards connection with myself in three directions. I can either move to to myself to really for self understanding. I can move towards others to understand them, which is what we call empathy, and I can move towards others to express my truth, which is what we call expression. So if a community has systems of nurturance that support self-understanding, empathy for others, and expression, um, and expression in a way that still holds the other person with care, then that becomes very, very like deeply meaningful in a community.
Then we come to feelings. In a world where we classify feelings as negative and positive and vice looks, it feelings as those feelings that we feel when our needs are met, and those that we feel when the needs are not met. Why is this reframing important?
Oh, it's a very critical reframing. It's incredibly important because the reframing is about shifting an awareness. So there's a key difference in NVC, which is about stimulus versus cause. Um, Usually, in the way we understand feelings, and in fact our own experiences, is that something happened to me to cause that. You made me feel angry. You made me feel sad. This happened to me. Um, and in this, what happens is that the root that as we understand this, the concept, like we conceptualize that the reason for my experience is something outside me and I'm not in control of it. And what happens when we don't feel like we're in control of ourselves is we get angry, we get ashamed, we get traumatized, we get really anxious. Um, on the other hand, in NBC, we're shifting awareness completely. We're saying that the stimulus might come from the outside, but the reason I feel what I feel is because of the state of my own needs. So it's really about bringing ownership of my experience back to me, reclaiming um, power over myself with by connecting with my needs. So it's a very gentle kind of process. It's about saying, so suppose something does happen to me, like we're leading up to this podcast, I was feeling quite nervous. And now I could say that, oh my God, I have so much to do and I'm really nervous and I'm going to screw this up. And that's why I feel nervous. Then I'm still not in control of what's happening to me. But if I shift awareness and notice, yes, I feel nervous because I really have a longing for connection, I have a longing to be heard, and I have a longing for dignity. Those are my needs. I can hold them inside me and I can bring them forward with care for the other person. It's not because of somebody else that something happens to me. So, one part of it is about ownership, one part of it is about connection, one part of it is also, I think, really important somewhere to, as we as a collective, I believe, as a collective species, I believe we're getting more and more attuned to mindfulness practices and owning our experiences and being observers and witnesses to our own being versus, acting from our feelings. And one of these concepts is around being able to self soothe but also self connect. When we connect with our feelings and check what needs they're coming from, this is also it really helps us to not invalidate what we're going through, but to harvest what's really good about that experience. So if I'm feeling really angry, that doesn't sound like a good experience, but if I'm feeling really angry, if I stay with it and I check, what am I really needing? Anger usually shows up when it's telling me something important. Being able to connect with my pool of needs under my feelings helps me bring that into the flow. So the reframing is absolutely critical. It's about owning not just my experiences, but also reclaiming choice over how I behave. It's about taking responsibility, fullness of responsibility for my needs, and that's really empowering.
Finally, about request. Why is practicing making requests important, and what does a formed request look like? Maybe
Right.
with an example.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, requests are the fourth step of nonviolent communication. There are four steps: as observations, feelings, needs, and requests. Um, but requests is also really where we start talking to the other person. So, in a sense, in the dance of communication with the other person, requests are the first step. Which means we need to go back to the basic reason why we would practice NVC in the first place. And there are two intentions behind the practice of NVC. One intention is solely for connection, to foster connection, to live connection, and the other is to make life beautiful. Um, and requests is how we start to make life beautiful. It's about owning responsibility for our needs, offering them to the other as an invitation to help us make our lives beautiful, and therefore our life, shared life together, beautiful. And very critically, it's also about being able to hear no to the other, to our requests from the other person. Um, so I'll just give you an example, and that would help. So well-formed request would be, like SMART. If you've heard the acronym SMART, SMART. So it needs to be specific. That's how I learned it. There are other short forms floating around, but I learned it like this. So it needs to be specific. It needs to be measurable, action-oriented, reasonable, and time-bound. So, for example, I might need connection. This is really alive in the pandemic. And I can say to you that, I really need to connect with you, or I need connection. But this will not give you or the other person all the information that they need to be able to meet my needs. So I may instead want to make it really specific and measurable, and such as so for example, I might say something like, I'm really longing for connection. Would you be willing to schedule a Zoom meeting with me so that I can see your face and speak to you for 1 hour this coming Tuesday? And now, when the person says no to this, it's very easy for me now to know that they're saying no to my request, to the action, but not to me and not to my need. They're not denying my need, they're just meeting other needs by a different strategy. So, again, it's about, yeah, I mean, it's an invitation to dancing with the other person. So when somebody says no, I might take that back, process it, and then come back with another request with those intentions of making life beautiful and to connect with each other.
That's nice. Thank you so much for really helping us understanding the details. Are there any offerings and workshops at Encompass that you would like to talk about?
Sure. Thanks for that. That's a good question. I'd love to talk about it. Encompassion offers many workshops. We offer at least one weekly workshop every Saturday through our Living Bridges program, and we also offer training programs. So this July we have 5 super exciting workshops. In fact, in June itself we have 2 more Saturdays to go. So there's a workshop on requests with Ranjita Jurkar just coming up, and I'll be offering a workshop on radical curiosity in social change using NVC. And in July we have 3 NVC offerings, including an introduction, a workshop with Samuel Odhiambo, and again, me with another aspect of NVC and social change as I see it. And we are lucky enough to be hosting Prakhar Bhartiya from the Indian School of Democracy and Meenu Venkateshwaran, who's the co-founder of Prabha and Commutiny, who will come and speak to us about different issues about which are social change related, because the work I do has to do with NVC and social change. And we have 3 training programs coming up. We're a very active company. So we have an Inner Foundations NVC workshop coming up, a workshop on like a training on relationships, and a training on parenting with NVC. And all of this can be found, information about all of this can be found on encompassion.com. And I want to just mention this, that Encompassion, like our work really, when we do the workshops, we take money from these workshops and use that to support our grassroots work. That's how we sort of reorient funds. So we would welcome anyone, absolutely.
Thank you for giving your valuable time.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's been really wonderful.